Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Aliyah Martin. In the headlines, Wesley area deemed best site for the construction of the international airport. Major infrastructural development continues in the Grand Bay constituency. And Prime Minister Skerritt says Dominica is well on the way to building the first climate resilient nation in the world. Details of the headline stories and more when we return.
The hurricane season is less than a month away. Find out today what types of hazards that could happen where you live. Hurricanes can cause many hazards, including flooding due to heavy rainfall, large waves along the coast, strong winds, landslides, and falling rocks. Determine your risk and be prepared for any eventuality. A message from the Government Information Service.
Welcome back. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt says Dominica is firmly on the path towards becoming the first climate resilient nation in the world. Prime Minister Skerritt says government has developed a clear pathway with the National Resilience Development Strategy, NDRS, that integrates climate resilience and disaster risk management into the National Growth and Development Planning.
This has been translated into a climate resilience and recovery plan, which sets out a roadmap for achieving resilience by 2030. We have committed to deposit $500,000 monthly into our Vulnerability, Risk and Resilience Fund, set up at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. This fund is intended to provide ready access to finance and to enable us to quickly and effectively respond to shocks and disasters.
Prime Minister Skerritt says these strategies are consistent with the promises made by the Dominica Labour Party administration and getting the country ready for the opportunities post-COVID-19.
Your government is playing its part, but we need the support of all citizens. We need increased productivity and improved customer service in both the public and private sectors. Unity and cooperation are especially important at this time of global crisis, when Dominica needs all her sons and daughters, whether at home or abroad, to put their best efforts and skills at the disposal of our country, Dominica. If Dominica fails, we all fail. If Dominica is prosperous, we all prosper.
Rehabilitation works on the Grand Bay Berwick-Cobb bypass is ongoing. This road was one of the many roads which were affected following the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017. Octavia Prosper reports.
Minister for Public Works Honorable Cassani Laville says he is committed to the fulfillment of this project.
I believe it was in February of this year, and Honorable Regis asked me to come to take a look at some failures in his constituency, and Berwick Grand Bay was one of the first areas that he took me to, and he made tremendous representation and lobbied very hard for his culvert crossing and the road to be repaired. Honorable Regis said to me that, Minister, that this road failure is significant. It's at the entrance of the community and his people. They sincerely need this road because it provides access to them. And I feel so proud, I'm honored that this is one of our first projects that we're able to lobby for and make representation.
Minister Laville says the road became a priority due to deterioration caused over the years which hindered access to the community.
What existed was a small culvert crossing, approximately 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. And what we had from a storm event, we had most of the fill material surrounding that culvert being washed away. And the area was compromised, hindering access from a 2-lane section to a 1-lane section. And a community like Grand Bay with buzzing activity, so many people, and the influence of Grand Bayans to the economy is so significant that we absolutely cannot have Granby being disconnected from the rest of Dominica.
Shane Alexander is the contractor for the road project, which commenced 4 weeks ago and is expected to be completed early next year.
We had a tender process where various contractors were invited, and we had the successful bidder being Shane Alexander from the area with a bid slightly surpassing $2 million. So Shane started about 4 weeks ago. That would be about mid-October, and we're expecting that he will complete the project by about mid-February, thereabout, the 11th or so. He has been hindered a little bit based on the rain events of last week, so we had a slowdown in terms of his implementation, but he's been doing his best to work on the weekends and extending his working hours and his resources in terms of people on the ground and machinery on the ground. So he's been doing his best to ensure that he meets his deadline.
Minister Laville says the new culvert is a major improvement from the previous one and is a symbol of government's commitment to keeping its promises to the people of Dominica.
This culvert is a major improvement from what was there before. Like I said, 1.2 by 1.2 meters. Right now we are constructing a 4 meter by 5 meter culvert. So in one direction we are increasing the size by 400% and in another direction by 500%. So that just tells you the type of investment that the government is doing in terms of resilience in our infrastructure. It's a promise that has been made by the Honorable Prime Minister and the Cabinet, and this shows that it's a promise kept.
Parliamentary representative for the Granby constituency, Honorable Edward Regis, says the cost of the project is over $2 million.
The government is investing just over $2 million to repair this and to redo this piece of road, very, very important at the entrance of the community of Granby. What we're seeing is that the contractor has begun quite well, and we're seeing the base of the box culvert now being constructed.
Honorable Regis says the project has created employment within his constituency.
I'm looking forward to its continuation. I understand that it will take about 4 months for completion. But what I'm looking forward to is opportunities for employment. So right now you will see a minimal number of people at work because that particular part of the project does not require so many people. But before that, in the stage where they were excavating and so on, we had quite a few people on the project, and later on we expect quite a few people. We also expect a number of truck drivers to be engaged when they have to do some dredging of the ravine. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sort of encouraging people who are interested in finding some temporary employment to contact the contractor. He's from Granby, Shane Alexander. Everybody knows Shane.
Honorable Regis says he's looking forward to the successful completion of the project.
This is among other projects that will be coming to Granby, and we look forward to the successful completion of this project.
Octavia Prosper for the Government Information Service.
The Dominica Youth Business Trust, DYBT, in collaboration with the International Organization of Migration and the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security and Dominicans with Disabilities, broke ground on Thursday for the first phase of the DYBT Entrepreneurship Hub. Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security and Dominicans with Disabilities, Honorable Dr. Addis King says the ministry is proud of the work that the DYBT has accomplished.
The ministry is excited to share publicly the advanced plans towards establishing the physical aspect of DYBT's hub and to welcome you to this groundbreaking ceremony as we approach the annual celebration of Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Dr. King says the hub is meant to be used as a place for collaboration so that all young entrepreneurs can benefit.
The hub is meant to be a place of collaboration, networking, and inspiration for youth especially our youth at risk and youth from disadvantaged communities. It has been very easy to work with our implementing partner, IOM Dominica, as they are guided by the very same humanitarian principles as the Youth Development Division in its social work to ensure that no one is left behind.
Dr. King says this project will contribute to Dominican's efforts of achieving its sustainable development goals.
This project is also contributing to Dominica's attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. This is particularly so with regard to Goal 8, which calls for urgent action to achieve decent work and economic growth in member states of the United Nations. The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities is very thankful for the collaboration of all government departments, private sector organizations, and representatives of the DYBT alumni who have given service as active members of the steering committee.
Coordinator of the Dominica Youth Business Trust, Mrs. Kerry and Remy Timothy, detailed what the new hub will entail.
The establishment of an entrepreneurial support hub provides both a physical space and a virtual front door for our entrepreneurs. The DYBT hub will encompass a tool library, which is housed already and presently housed agriculture and agro-processing tools and equipment, a shared co-production space for arts and craft manufacturers, and a rotational production area for the agro-processors in the first stage. A networking space for shared learning, training, administrative desk support, with modern co-working and event meeting space for entrepreneurs and remote workers, along with vending space we look for as the second phase of our project.
Project Manager at the International Organization of Migration, Mrs. Maxine Aline Esprit, says the facility will be providing tools and equipment to clients of DYBT.
So this is a facility where entrepreneurs who are clients of DYBT are able to rent certain equipment that they might need. We will increase the capacity of that by providing certain ICT equipment as well as agro-processing equipment, and we also have the ambition that art and craft equipment will also be, production equipment will also be housed within that tool library. There are already certain things that can be used by that sector. So there will be two shared production areas. One will focus on the art and craft sector, and the other will focus on the small agro-processing businesses.
Government will soon launch an entrepreneurship visa program aimed primarily at mobilizing support and finance for micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs. This as the government continues to find ways to create employment for citizens, to raise capital and leverage that capital to support development and commercial activity at national level. Though this is a challenge faced by all Caribbean small island developing states and developing countries, the Dominica Labour Party-led administration continues to put strategies in place to develop Dominica's economy.
The Entrepreneurship Visa Program will invite interested investors to make a substantial financial investment in Dominica in a designated fund from which MSMEs can obtain grant funding. We will also focus on strengthening entrepreneurship generally, including for the creative industries. This targeted support will help our businesses to develop and thrive.
Under the Dominica Entrepreneurship Visa Program, foreign investors that start a business in an approved sector or who invest in an existing approved local business or pursue the option of a joint venture with a local business owner will be granted resident status. A committee was put in place for the advancement of this program, and Mr. Kenny Green was appointed chairman for that committee. This program is different from the Citizenship by Investment program. Mr. Green explained the ways in which residency will be obtained for this new program.
The CBI makes no it makes no demand on the applicant for residency. So that's one of the reasons for their popularity. As you know, there are many different CBI programs in the world, over 40 at last count. And so therefore, the fundamental difference is that as an RBI, the entrepreneur visa requires that the applicant spend substantial time in Dominica, 90 days for each calendar year. And that, like other RBIs, means that the applicant has to become a resident here, has to become a consumer here, has to become lodged here. And that has a totally different impact. It's a different requirement, a totally different impact, and a different client as well.
The entrepreneur visa offers 3 methods of investment to interested parties. A minimum investment of US $50,000 using the government's investment fund. The contribution must be made into an existing government-approved company. A minimum investment of US $100,000 in a startup project. The project must be registered in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The startup must also employ at least 3 workers with full-time jobs. Investment as an equity investor in the public sector approved by the government or in a private sector venture. Dominica now has a total of 68 confirmed cases of COVID-19. 6 cases were discharged from the COVID center, with 5 new cases bringing the total number of active cases to 27. 4 of the 5 new active cases are imported ones, and 1 is a contact from an imported case. The cases are between the ages of 20 to 56 years old.
All 5 cases are asymptomatic, and they do not have any chronic medical conditions. The contact tracing is ongoing. So far, all except 1 is negative.
Meanwhile, by order of the Minister under Section 3 of the Peace Preservation Act, Chapter 1504, the wearing of masks in all public areas is now mandatory. This, as an uptick in the COVID-19 cases was seen in recent weeks. This was necessary to mitigate against the spread of the coronavirus.
I informed the public that Cabinet would be deciding at Cabinet yesterday on the finalization of that regulation. That was done yesterday. Cabinet met and gave final approval to the Environmental Health Services Amendment Regulations, which I would anticipate will be given full effect through the Minister signing it and it being gazetted later this week, probably Thursday, probably to take effect Thursday, Friday.
The public will be required to wear a mask when using a bus, taxi, or any other public transportation, at public buildings, supermarkets, retail and commercial establishments, and any other public spaces, including beaches. Government is also expecting business owners to comply with the provisions put in place and is given permission to request the removal of masks for identification purposes. The penalty for not wearing a face mask in public is $75 EC. Public gatherings remain a concern with the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Acting Deputy Chief of Police, Mr. Davidson Valerie, says an applicant wishing to host an event should provide all necessary information requested.
The applicant must ensure that his name, home address, telephone number or numbers, and any other information as may be requested by the Chief of Police are documented. Application forms are available at Discover Dominica authorities.
An approval team will be formed comprising of persons from the Police Department and the Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment. Prior to approval, all venues will be inspected. Anyone found in breach of public large gatherings commits an offense and will be fined in the amount of $10,000 EC or 1 year imprisonment. The Operation Youth Quake, which is a home for at-risk youth, will benefit from the Juvenile Justice Reform Project, JJRP, with the refurbishment of the facility. The government of Dominica has collaborated with the JJRP, which is a joint initiative between the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and United Nations Agency for International Development, USAID. To address challenges faced by the youth in the Caribbean, the OECS and USAID are investing in activities that support programs which centered on improvement of juvenile justice systems. Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, Honorable Dr. Addis King says, the JJRP has provided tangible assistance to Dominica.
The OECS USAID project has provided tangible assistance to Dominica. Reference can be made to ongoing support provided to Operation Youthquake. Operation Youthquake's facility was rehabilitated in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Further project assistance in the sum of $159,286 has now been approved for additional retrofitting works at that facility. This will certainly bring great comfort to residents and staff of the institution. Another important area of assistance is that of capacity development. Through capacity development, a number of practitioners, including social workers, the police, and probation officers, were given the opportunity to upgrade their skills and competence in order to better serve children.
You're watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. Director of Surveys and Commissioners of Lands, Marcus Lestrade, says the current site chosen for the international airport is the most suitable. The airport will be constructed in the northeast of Dominica in the Wesley area.
As the report indicated, that was the previous site because there were no obstructions both on the approach and the takeoff because we have a sea approach both on the northeast, northwestern and southeastern approaches. So basically it was an obstruction-free approach. Also that site was selected because of the tailwinds, the southeast, the trade winds come from the southeast. So it would not pose any problems regarding crosswinds. So that was the reason why this site was selected, and that's why we are here today.
Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit says construction of the international airport will begin in the first quarter of 2021. Works are set to begin on numerous schools across the island. This is according to Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, vocational training, and national excellence, Honorable Octavia Alfred. These schools all suffered significant damage from the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017. The damage caused many of the students to be displaced or housed at temporary locations or in smaller sections of the damaged building. Minister Alfred says funding has been sourced for the rehabilitation of Grand Bay, Tetmon, and Bellevue-Chopin primary schools.
Works have started at the Monshorn and Daly's Primary School. Works are due to begin soon at Maho and Will Strathmore Stevens in Marigot, and funding has been approved for new construction at the Grand Bay, Tetmon, Bellevue-Chopin, Calibishi Primary Schools, and the Goodwill Secondary School. These achievements and plans require a high level of determination and commitment from a caring government to see our children housed in improved settings for successful learning.
7 individuals and 1 group will receive Golden Drum Awards for their contribution to Dominica's culture on Saturday, November 14, 2020, at the 36th Annual Golden Drum Awards ceremony. Chief Cultural Officer Mr. Raymond Lawrence says the event was scheduled to be held earlier in the year, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the ceremony had to be rescheduled. Mr. Raymond Lawrence listed the names of the awardees, all of which have dedicated over 20 years of their lives to enhancing Dominica's culture.
There are 8 awardees, and they are Scrunter, the Calypsonian, there's Rasmo, Delmas Erasmo Moses, there's Rosette Bertrand, the Carina Cultural Group from the Kalinago Territory, Gillis Carbon John Baptist from Capuchin, Lucia Landa from Roseau, Val Coffey from Goodwill, and Joan Frampton from Point Michelle. So these are the 8 Golden Drum Awardees.
5 individuals and 1 group will also receive special recognition awards. These awards are given to citizens who have contributed and continue to make an impact on Dominica's culture.
We also present special recognition awardees, and we have 6 in that category, and they are Carly Nexby, Shirley Alexander from Eggleston, Ulson Matthew from Cadenfield, the Culture Lovers Cultural Group from Woodford Hill, Siobhan Vigilant from Maho, and Colette Diane Telemac from Wesley.
Mr. Lawrence then announced that 1 private sector business and 1 government department will receive awards for their efforts during the independence season.
On that evening as well, we're going to be presenting 2 awards, 1 to the best decorated business place during independence and 1 to the best decorated government office during the independence. We had advertised the competition for those who wanted to take part. And so the winner of the business place category for best decor is Brandsmark, and the winner for the government office category is DASPA. So we will be presenting these 2 awards on that evening as well.
DOWASCO is urging the public to pay outstanding bills. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is not in the best interests of the individual to disconnect their service. Managing Director of DOWASCO, Mr. Bernard Etinoff, stated that people have started to come forward to settle their bills, but delinquency remains an issue.
Very early, we decided to facilitate customers by not disconnecting, first of all, and offering them repayment plans to take care of their arrears. Some customers came in and did that, made arrangements, paid what they could, and some are continuing to do so. We still have a number of customers who, in spite of we pleading with them to make payments, they refuse to. Those we're going to have to find a way to deal with as soon as we can, because of course company needs money to operate.
Resident Coordinator of the United Nations, Didier Trebuch, has highlighted the United Nations contributions to Dominica. The UN has been a development partner to Dominica and has assisted Dominica in many ways, specifically after the passage of natural disasters.
We have around 15 UN agencies working here. And it goes from the strengthening of the health system, the governance and legislation on sexual and reproductive health. We also work on education. UNICEF is very engaged in strengthening the education system, especially when you face some different mechanisms for online learning eventually in the region during lockdown periods. Agriculture is critical also in Dominica, so we look at strengthening agriculture resilience, and we're launching now a new joint program of the UN to strengthen agricultural resilience and empower women in the agricultural sector. This is a new joint program that will cover 5 countries, including Dominica.
The UN is also assisting Dominica with the goal of becoming the world's first climate resilient country.
Climate change adaptation and mitigation is another key area of work here, and we have done a lot since 2015 and 2017 in terms of post-hurricane recovery, for example, and I just visited today the site with Minister Daroux, where the houses were built being climate resilient and resilient to hurricane, of course.
The UN has assisted Dominica with energy efficiency, social protection, gender-based violence, and the building of resilient homes. And now your weather update. A trough system is expected to generate cloudiness, scattered showers, and possible isolated thunderstorms across most of the island chain, including Dominica, during the next 24 hours. People in areas prone to flooding, landslides, and falling rocks are advised to be vigilant and to exercise caution. Moderate sea conditions are expected during the next 24 hours, with waves peaking near 8 feet. A small craft advisory is now in effect for above normal seas. Small craft operators and sea bathers, particularly on the East Coast, are advised to exercise caution. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, as well as on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Aaliyah Martin. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.